So about a month ago, I made a video on the burgeoning Japanese girl metal scene and its potential to draw in new eyes and ears to heavy music, particularly younger generations who've more or less grown up with Asian media like anime, K-pop, and J-pop, and K-dramas. Of that whole scene, I think the standout group is easily Hanabie, who have been blowing up quite a bit in the last few years. And since it seems no one has made a video on them and their history, I figured I'd give it a go. Before getting into the video, I just want to say that while I've done my best to piece together an accurate and coherent timeline for the group, they are a relatively new group who haven't done a whole lot of interviews, and the few interviews they have done are mostly in Japanese, so I am relying on machine learning translations and a document I found made by a fan. There may be some mistakes or mix-ups in the video, but like I said, I've done my best to be as accurate as possible. And as always, if you enjoy these videos, make sure to like, subscribe, and share. Or if you're feeling generous, you can help the channel more directly by donating over on Ko-fi. With that, let's get on with the video. Hanabie is a metalcore and nu metal band drawing heavily from Maximum the Hormone, a band the girls have idolized since middle school. Along with that, they bring in influences from anime, visual kei, Gao culture, and the Harajuku district of Tokyo. As per the band's website, the members are lead vocalist Yukina, who was born in 1999, is blood type A, apparently that's a big thing in Japan, 149 centimeters, I believe that's like 4'10", and 1/8 Dutch. I'm guessing that's like the Japanese equivalent of having a Cherokee ancestor. The one and only guitarist is Matsuri, born in 1999, but is blood type B. She's also the straight man comedic type, loves video games, and is boyish. On bass is Hetsu, who is blood type O. I unfortunately have to deduct points for not being type O negative. She's also a fashion monster and apparently an alcoholic. And lastly, on drums is Chika, who was born in 2000, is blood type B, loves ice cream, and is a chivalry type, whatever that means. Western bands should start doing this more often. I need to know what type Corpse Grinder is. The origins of the band go all the way back to 2014. At the time, Yukina, Hetsu, and Matsuri all attended the same all-girls combination junior high and high school. Yukina, then in her last year of middle school, would discover the music of Maximum the Hormone through a cover band in a high school band club. Founded in 1997, Maximum, alongside the likes of Deer and Gray, Crystal Lake, and Boris, are among the few heavy Japanese bands to really gain any notoriety pre-baby metal. From that point on, Yukina knew that once she was in high school, she would join the band club and start a Maximum cover band. But, of course, she needed other people to do so. Her good friend Hetsu had already been aware of Maximum through her father, who listened to rock and metal, and through the grapevine, Yukina had heard rumors and hearsay that a girl named Matsuri was into heavy music. So one day, when she had an opportunity, she approached her in the hallway and inquired about her listening habits. Yukina was delighted to learn that she enjoyed, as she put it, such indecent music.
びっくりした。本当にあんなにおとなしくて清楚なゆきちゃんが、こんなものを聞いているのかって、こんな下品で。
The two quickly became good friends and began attending shows together like the Satanic Carnival, even if they had to sneak out of the house in order to do so. Fast forward a year, and now in high school, the girls were eligible to join the band club. While Matsuri wasn't sure about joining the band club at first, she decided to give it a shot. Though, since Maximum had 4 members, they still needed one more person to complete the band. So Matsuri recruited her friend Keita, and with that, the band was complete, only they needed to pick their roles first. Problem being, most of the girls had little to no experience with music, so they kind of just picked what they thought would be fun to do. Matsuri, having had some experience with guitar, opted for that. Hetsu had dabbled in drums back in elementary, but she wanted to try something different, so she went for bass. Keita went for drums, and so Yukina was left with no choice but to do vocals, something she had no experience in. The name Hanabie was chosen by Keita, partly because English names were in vogue and the group wanted to do something a little bit different, and partly because all of the members were born in December, except for Yukina, who was born in April. According to Wikipedia, the name means the spring day on which the coldness of winter returns. Where I'm from, we just call that some bullshit. The newly formed band would soon encounter their first hurdle. School faculty, particularly the band club advisor, were not fond of the music the girls wanted to play. So instead of giving them one of the practice rooms, the girls were given a damp and humid basement. While they protested and fought for a proper practice room, they would eventually admit defeat and settle for the basement. As the girls recall, there was a bit of competitiveness among the different bands in the club, which inspired them and gave them motivation. The girls, however, would quickly realize they were unable to actually play the songs they wanted to play, since none of them really had any experience playing music. While they tried at first playing some easygoing rock tunes, they quickly got bored and frustrated. When other bands in the club began writing their own songs, they felt they should follow suit, which worked out since that meant they could just write the songs they wanted to play, but that fit their skill level. They would write their first song, Crash Over, in 2016, which is about the feud they had with school faculty over the basement. In December, Keita would depart the group, leaving them without a drummer, the first of several times this would happen to the group. Beginning in 2017, the girls would start performing at local venues, namely the Anti-Knock in Shinjuku. Of course, they weren't supposed to be playing at such venues, but that didn't stop the girls. Instead, they would smuggle regular clothes and band gear with them to school, hide it from faculty, and when classes were over, they would quickly change and dip out before anyone could notice. At the venue, they'd not only gain experience playing live, but also mentorship from bands and staff who would help them with gear and live sound. They would then manage to recruit Boa as their drummer in July. Now, here's where the timeline gets a little confused. In 2017, the girls would catch the attention of Crystal Lake drummer Gaku Tara. Some sources say this was at the School Out Band competition. However, there is an interview with Gaku in which he says it was an event he held by himself when he was still in high school. Maybe the School Out Band competition was what Gaku was talking about. I'm not really sure. But either way, the main point is they would be discovered by Gaku, who was impressed by the girls. He would offer them his mentorship and his studio, and in 2018, the girls would release their first EP, Cherry Blossoms Are Blooming. Musically, it's a little basic compared to what we know them for now, and the vocals do leave a little something to be desired, but for the first EP, it's a solid release. Boa, however, would depart the band a month after the release of the EP. Now, notably, the band had yet to adopt the styling and fashion that we know them for now. That would begin to change in 2019 with the release of their standalone single, LGC. The girls realized that in order to stand out, they needed to do something different. So they began to incorporate fashion inspired by otaku and gal culture and the Harajuku district of Tokyo. While the girls were starting to have an initial breakthrough and taste of success thanks to the video for LGC and the style shift that came with it, any plans on touring were cut short come 2020. So for the next couple of years, they would instead shift their focus to social media, posting vlogs, Q&As, behind the scenes, playthrough videos, or holding in-studio concerts. These videos would allow them to maintain momentum in a period where everything was otherwise shut down. They would also start a crowdfunding campaign for their debut album and recruit Seiya on drums in September. Their debut album, Girls Reform Manifest, would release on January 14th, 2021. 2 days before that, they would release the first video from the album, We Love Sweets, which would wind up being their breakthrough hit, garnering over 1 million views in about a month, along with plenty of reaction videos to go along with it. The pivot the girls had made in regards to their sound and image was working, and it's no surprise. The novelty of seeing a barely 5-foot Japanese girl growling about how she loves sweets is obviously going to draw in curious eyes and ears. It's fun, it's flamboyant, it's different, and people like that. But it also drew the attention of Epic Records, who would work out a deal with the group in 2022. The girls would announce the deal in 2023 while performing at the Satanic Carnival, a show they used to have to sneak out of the house to attend. With the backing of a record label, they would begin work on their second album, Reborn Superstar. Pardon Me, I Have to Go Now, the first single from that album, released in January of 2023, and would blow up even more than We Love Sweets, and is currently sitting at almost 12 million views. Unfortunately, Seiya would also depart the band in April. However, they would manage to recruit Chika within the month, and it seems she's here to stay. Hopefully. Now, having had the semi-viral success of 2 songs and the backing of a record deal, the next couple of years would be their busiest yet. They would begin touring internationally, particularly in America and Europe, where they had a growing fan base. They would also manage to release 2 EPs, Buchigiri Tokyo and Hot Topic, in 2024 and 2026 respectively, with each EP having multiple singles and videos for songs like Girls Talk, Spicy Queen, Iconic, My Type, and a few others. Each of these videos have consistently hit over 1 million views each, cementing their place in modern metal. So that's been the story of Hanabie up to this point. I want to end this video by trying to understand how and why they've blown up as much as they have. Now, while in the grand scheme of things, Hanabie are still relatively small, about 4'10" to be exact, they've managed to go from an obscure Japanese band to one of modern metal's quickest rising groups in just a few years. I'd also argue the group have really managed to bridge the gap between Eastern and Western audiences more than anyone besides maybe Baby Metal. And even then, I think they have more potential than Baby Metal in that regard. So the question is, why? Well, I think it comes down to a couple of simple factors. Number one, they're interesting. People want entertainment. People want something that captivates them, and people respond to things that stand out. Something that I think rock and metal has really struggled with in the last 10 or 15 years. In a world full of boring white guys genting in a colored room, be a flamboyant Japanese woman wearing crazy outfits. Hanabie knew that they had to do something to stand out from the crop, and it clearly worked. The numbers don't lie. Number two is, I would say, social media and online platforms. Their embrace of social media during the pandemic allowed them to build and maintain a foundation of loyal fans at a time when touring was not possible. I don't know why, but getting rock and metal musicians to embrace social media is like pulling teeth. Look, I get it. I'm not a social media person either, but in the post-streaming world, the game is different. You can't rely on record sales, but I also don't think it's good to rely on tourism, contrary to the common sentiment that that's where the money is. I see so many rock and metal acts spending months on the road in a cargo van with 6 other guys struggling to make ends meet, when all of that time and energy could be put toward making YouTube videos of some kind, or live streaming, or doing some kind of short form content. All things that will get you a much higher return of investment. And hey, if you love touring, then by all means, tour to your heart's content. But keep in mind, tens of millions of people have watched Hanabie's music videos, far more than will ever watch them live. And that isn't surprising if you look at their videos. They're not just flashy and fun, but they are also phenomenally well directed. Spicy Queen is one of the best music videos I have seen in recent years. Every frame of that video is a masterful shot. So that's the story of Hanabie, and how I think they've managed to become as successful as they have. As always, let me know what you think, and if there are any artists that you'd like to see covered on this channel, let me know. I want to start highlighting some more interesting and upcoming artists who are doing cool and interesting stuff on this channel.